Hi, everybody. So I want to introduce you to Kelly, who is the wife of Wyatt. So she lives with Wyatt. You guys are out there on the farm.
Yes.
And I'm so excited to meet you and you were supposed to be here together, but Wyatt has a farm
Right.
emergency.
Right.
So,
Correct.
yeah. So we're going to talk about the nuts and bolts of Ascension today. And Kelly has great questions and she created a list. And we're basically going to talk about things that you can share with people that are beginning to awaken. So this could be a truther. This could be, I made a list, a younger person, somebody that's questioning the matrix, Mandela effects, synchronicities, religion. So any of the systems, if they're starting to wonder, why is this happening? You could say, watch this show because we're going to make it soft and easy and things to go research on your own. Okay.
Love
So
it.
tell me how you woke up. And we're going to put this on YouTube. So,
Okay. All
okay.
right. No problem. So, like everybody, I would say it's a process. And I've always been interested in, call it the other side, the greater being, how are we connected? I always knew that there was more to life. And um I mean, even from an early age, I never questioned if there were aliens. I thought everybody knew that there were aliens out there. And as you grow up and you learn, some people are very against the idea that we are God's only source, that there's nobody else out there.
Mhm.
That to me was mind blowing. But you kind of learn and conform to what you can say and what you shouldn't say at certain times, certain people. And as I got older, I paid more attention to different things and started questioning, does this make sense? That makes sense. And it really was the pandemic in 2020 that really propelled things, as I think it was meant to do. I was pregnant in 2021 with my fourth child, and they were talking about going through some poking devices to help with the ease of the crisis going on. So it was really at that moment that I thought, this isn't right. Something's not right. They've never in my entire life promoted something so much and advertised and incentivized, and it did not feel right. And that's when I really recognized something's going on, something bigger than what they're saying. And I got very skeptical and asked a lot of questions and started paying attention more to what my body was feeling, and what was happening around me. And so ultimately, and I'm sure so many of you deal with this, the sides of the family, right? You've got to do this, or you're gonna kill everybody, or if you don't do this, then you got to stand your ground, and we're patriots. And so it was a very confusing time. And I thought, okay, I know that I'm not comfortable with going through the
Mhm.
joke, but I'm going to go to a psychic because I'm struggling right now with what to do. And the psychic essentially unloaded a lot of information that felt like it was almost every conspiracy theory that you'd ever heard of. She helped walk me down to, she said, Kelly, it's all true. And she started going through, she's like, this stuff. You just needed the confirmation. And so that opened up all these rabbit holes that, I mean, honestly, like, you name the subject, there is a rabbit hole that I went down. And in 2021, I literally felt crazy. I think I've read more books in those years than I have in my entire life. Um, and at the time, Wyatt was, I think, thinking I was crazy too a little bit. And then he quickly got up to speed. And it was to the point where, honey, you've talked about this, how the men just generally are slower to get there, but when they do, they ramp up. And
Mhm.
Wyatt would be a really great case of that, because it wasn't just a few months after I thought, okay, he's getting it. He doesn't think I'm crazy. Okay, we're kind of having open conversations about this stuff. When he started asking me some intelligent questions about, well, what about this? And what about that? And did you hear about? And so I thought, okay, all right, here we go. So that led us to a lot of soul searching and, doing a lot of these steps, listening to a lot of videos, reading a lot of books. But ultimately, that's what I wanted this show to be about, is to help kind of pull in a summary of all of these experts that are saying almost the same thing to
Mhm.
help people, look within, and that there's so many answers and we are so powerful. So that's, I
Yeah,
guess, the backstory.
I love it. Yeah, because we are basically pieces of God experiencing itself. I don't
Yes,
want to say him or her,
right.
experiencing itself. And it's creating this massive expansion that's going on. And ascension is vibrating up in frequency. So Kelly asked me to bring a chart, which was a brilliant plan. Of course, now I don't see it. So hang on one second. But it really does help to think about it as vibrating up, because everything is going to be frequency that we hear about in the future. So shame is a really low frequency. It's the hardest one. And enlightenment is right up there at the top. Now, I think it goes beyond that, but in our awareness, this is as high as it goes. This is like enlightenment. But look at all this stuff in between. So kind of figure out where you're at. And you could drop from love to anger and then create forgiveness and then go right back to love.
Yeah, I think like generally you kind of float around a certain area. The goal is to rise up.
Mhm.
And you're going to have those moments that drop you down. And how far down do you drop and how quickly do you bounce back up? I work still in corporate America and I lead a team. We talk about this from a productivity perspective.
Mhm.
You're allowed to have a bad day, but don't stay down there. Get back up and progress forward. You know, no, really doesn't help anybody. It doesn't serve yourself or the team or the company or the objective if you're gonna sulk, if you're gonna, feel that shame or guilt. Get out of it. Get
Mhm.
out of it so you can achieve.
Yeah, and kind of forgiving yourself or going through the process of figuring out whatever it is that's been hanging you up. So maybe it's pride, but you're normally around love. And if you let go of feeling like you have to look good, so let's say it's pride, then all of a sudden you bump up into joy. So it really is like stairs. And we're basically in stairs right now anyway. My phone just went off. We're in stairs right now anyway, because that's part of how you go into ascension. And if you imagine all these different colors as like a stair on a staircase, you're going to see where you go. You just go up and up and up. And what's interesting too, which I was looking at this, is the new colors for the new universe are aqua and lavender. So we're basically moving into these colors as a whole, which I just noticed.
Mhm.
So that's fun.
Yeah. Um, there is a process that I used to go through with decision making that you can, we always you want to raise your vibration. You want to get to that enlightenment. You want to get to that love, that joy, that peace.
Mhm.
So we make so many decisions every day. So are you making a decision that is for the best decision for your path today? Is it good? Is it neutral? Is it bad, or is it really bad? And so where do you fall? And if you added up all those decisions that you make, are you on that highest path for the stairway to go up? Because like I said, you are going to have those days where you take a step down, or you have a bad moment, things happen.
Mhm.
But how do you turn it back around so that it's more positive? And yeah, I love that chart, because I feel like it puts a vision to how we act and what we're doing.
Yeah, it really helps. And one thing that humanity is really good at is looking at things through their eyes. We don't see a lot of the light spectrum, but we understand things if we get a visual, and it really does help. Um, Another thing you wanted to address was 3D, 4D, and 5D.
Yes,
So,
please explain that. This is so confusing for so many. What is this new vocabulary of world that exists for 3D, 4D, and 5D?
yeah, it's really complicated to some people, and it's actually very simple, and we can use the chart to look at it. So, if you're down in this area where basically from pride down, that's going to be 3D. So you want to look good, you get angry at people because they did something to you. You have desire for a perfect partner, you're afraid of certain things. You feel grief because you don't maybe really understand that, like, your mother passed away, but you don't understand that she goes on forever. She's eternal. Um, all of these things are 3D. So from pride down. 4D is a bridge. So it's the bridge to 5D. And it's basically chaos. So the further up in 4D is where you start to feel courage, neutrality, willingness, and acceptance. But that's at the very top. Besides that, you're basically got a soup of all the 3D feelings. And also you feel attacked a lot. And the attack is your own shadows of someone you've had an agreement to be in a fight with, or just like the basic situation that's been going on that the collective has agreed to. So 4D is chaos, basically. But once you start getting to the top of it, you're going to feel courage. You're going to feel neutral about certain things. You're not going to hold a grudge against people. You're going to feel willingness to change and acceptance of, okay, well, that person is just not where I want them to be. So I'm just going to let them be. And then 5D is all this stuff up at the top. So it's reason, love. Reason, I would say, is common sense. Love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. So it's not really that hard, but those feelings at the bottom are so dense. Like it feels like being in quicksand. And people that really they thrived in the 3D, they weren't really in their own highest good or anybody else's most of the time. So,
And I'm sure as you go through that, you can think of people who you think might fit these categories. That was, I think, easier for me as I was understanding it. I kind of put okay, that's more like this character in my surroundings. Okay, I know what that looks like. Okay, and this is what, and so you kind of just, not in a judging way, just to help you learn and understand the differences. But like Wyatt and I know somebody that we very clearly was at the bottom, always angry, always, it was everybody else's fault. And we saw a change in him in the past, I don't know, 5, 6 years. He has really been working on getting healthy and taking care of himself. And we're like, "Whoa, we're watching it. Like, it's really fun to see that transition."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And people start to level up
Mhm.
because of your frequency too. And when we stop judging them, then it also makes them free to change. So, like when you're worrying about somebody or judging them all the time, you almost have your thumb on them,
Mm.
which I don't really feel like we've known for a long time. Because there's all this quantum entanglement, is what it's called. And I
Yeah.
would look that up, but it's basically strands of energy going back and forth. And there's this exchange that you don't see, but you feel it. Like if your parents are always worried about you, are you going to be safe? Are you going to drive safely? There's snow, like then you feel it and it actually creates a possible situation.
Right. Yep.
Mhm.
Agree.
Yeah. And I think worry has been something that we've really had a lot of for a very long time. It's a program that was created, and we're kind of seeing all the programs and everything. So I would watch movies and see what the characters look like. Oh, is that one a 3D person who had to have the Maserati and the
Here,
hot
Wyatt, we
blonde?
need a cheer in.
Oh, did I pause? Here, let me pause. Okay, so Wyatt has joined us. He's back from the field, and we're just gonna go on with what we were talking about. Hopefully I can remember. I think it was basically like there's so many things that are falling right now. So pay attention to that. Look at your movies. Figure out what character is what. That's what I was talking about. And the 3D character is going to be the money hungry. I have a fast car and a good looking woman or a good looking man. There was this thing going around where everybody wanted to have a 6'5" banker, and that was going to be their squeeze, their main person. And all these women wanted this. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot of 3D people. And it was some kind of trend on TikTok. And I'd be like, okay, no, we don't want to watch that. But it really is like these trends and these things. Think about where they're coming from. Remember when everybody was eating Tide Pods?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Tide
God.
Pod challenge.
Yeah. So obviously a 3D thing, and probably created by somebody who had nefarious ideas about humanity. Yeah. Don't eat Tide Pods.
Our 5-year-old thinks they look good.
Oh, yeah. Well, they do look like candy. And I don't know who started it, but it feels like it was planted.
On purpose, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
And
make my
so
own
many
laundry
things are.
detergent now, so we don't have that problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and a lot of us are using like really good products at this point that you could eat them and they wouldn't hurt you. But I think the difference between the 3D, the 4D, and the 5D is that 3D and 4D are kind of linked up in a way that has kept humanity small. And now we're graduating out of that, and eventually they will disappear. And those vibrations will not be a part of this anymore, what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So, what's going on with you, Wyatt? Since we said hi.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not interjecting anything because I'm not real familiar with what the topic was.
Yeah.
But no, everything's going good right now. Just guess about the only thing that's frustrating me is you get on YouTube and there's so many videos I had a dream or God told me, and there's so much prophecy going on, and and I don't know if you guys talked anything about manipulative truthers or anything like that, and it's
No, but they're out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really important time to go within. And if you're watching someone who's channeling, like if they talk to all kinds of beings, just be aware and listen to what your body's saying. Like if it doesn't feel good, then don't watch, because you don't need to program your subconscious with things that are not in your highest good. And when I learned how to talk to my higher self, it was very, very specific. Like I wouldn't talk to anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would
So,
even say, like, from a basic perspective, if you're thinking, I don't even know where to start with that. Think about when you watch TV. Like if you're watching a TV show and you walk away going, I didn't learn anything, I feel sad and down in the dumps, or that back to that level of frequency, I feel guilty or shameful, or
mhm,
then that is a clue to yourself. You shouldn't be watching that TV show. I mean, you shouldn't. And you got to get yourself into routines that you're continuously on the higher side of that frequency. And
mhm,
it's not to say there's definitely good disclosure in shows that are dark or violent, but telling your mind this isn't real, and that you're watching it for, a purpose. But don't continuously watch that stuff over and over again if you walk away feeling that drama, the heaviness, that dense energy.
mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of shows that I've watched because I knew there was disclosure,
Mhm.
and they've been a TV series, and then eventually had to give them up because they just didn't stop with the yucky,
Right.
stuff. So,
what frustrates me though is like so many of these Bible beaten truthers that are talking about like the book of Revelation, like the apocalypse or whatever, or what the Bible, like Christians always call it end times. Like we're not even there yet. This is the oh, precursor to that. I'm like, what? I mean, the way things are going right now is so like you can't help but laugh. Like, okay, you can tell this is a production. Well, what is it going to be like much further beyond this when they're thinking the tribulation? That's the word I'm looking for. When the tribulation happens, which a lot of Christian truthers will say, no, that's not going to happen. That was a black hat plant, like the black cats or whoever wanted, the cabal wanted that end times to happen,
mhm,
and it's not going to happen. But it just, with the way the TV show is going on, most people that are watching you or us right now are going, or more than likely just can watch everything on TV and know that a lot of it's a production.
Right. That's true.
yeah, yeah. We're going through a huge movie production in a lot of ways. And this is kind of a beginner show for awakeners, which we didn't tell Wyatt. So
Oh, sorry, oops.
that's okay. So it's a beginning show for awakeners, but we are in a huge transitional point, which religious people call the apocalypse. But what is it? It's the ending of the old and the beginning of the new. If you look that up, like it's basically just an ending of old stuff.
Yeah.
So you've had apocalyptic relationships where they end, and you know, businesses fall apart, all that kind of stuff. So all of those could be classified as an apocalypse.
Right.
And there's no reason to be afraid of it. Mm-mm. Yeah. But I do feel that religion is going to be one of the harder things for people to adjust to.
I
And
completely agree.
yeah, because it is such a, like, they're contained within a container. So I saw woke versus awakened, and it was a picture of a fish inside of a fishbowl in the ocean. So the woke person was inside of that fishbowl, and the other fish were looking at him like, what are you doing? So really that's where we're at, is, are you keeping yourself in a cage because it feels safe, or are you allowing yourself to go explore? Yeah.
And that's what we've got an acquaintance that was a little more awake than we were to like the governmental stuff. And she used to listen to the X-22 report. And I don't know, she kind of got tired of listening to the same stuff that we're just waiting. We're almost there for the last 3 years, and she's almost gone backwards now, and
Oh,
has gone back to like more mainstream media. More, I mean, it's still conservative stuff, but it's just
well,
not
and that's
frustrating.
unwinding. So the
Yeah.
Yeah.
media is unwinding and falling apart in a huge way.
But when I was like, we're on the other path, man, I just kept listening and wanting more and more and more, and just everything was like it was like a bracket or whatever. Started listening to so many shows, and then just started narrowing down. I really only watch about 3 or 4 different people regularly or whatever.
Mhm.
I know I was telling Honey how at the beginning of my awakened journey, I was reading so many books. I mean, it was just constant. I was just constantly reading books. And then that book would get me thinking about something else. And then I'd start reading about, other things. And so yeah, you can really you can really get enthralled in this and make it a full-time job. But what I have learned through, I'll say, a trending summary of so many different experts that are pretty consistent across the different platforms, is there's really some basics that we should all be doing. And I almost have to laugh because like the basics are things that have been in our face our entire life, that our parents probably told us, and even doctors tell us, drink water and stay hydrated and eat healthy and sleep well and exercise, move your body. We're not made to sit all day.
Mhm.
They don't talk to you about grounding and putting salt in your water and kind of that next level up. But ultimately, there's so many basic things that we need to do that don't involve what the programs say for us to do ultimately.
Yeah. And taking your mind out of it a lot of times actually allows your soul to come in and talk to you, and your intuition to thrive versus being suppressed all the time, because you're listening to everything. Like, I used to listen and be doing everything else during my day, but I was listening to a video all the time as I was learning. And now I make videos, but I don't listen to anything because, for one, I don't really have the time, but I also don't want to pollute what comes from the inside and goes out.
Yeah, I think about I don't know how many years ago it was, but I've got 4 kids, I've got a career, and just a lot going on. Well, at one point, I think it was in a leadership development program, they talked about quieting your mind and how important that is, which it is. And that's part of the message today, is that you need to find time to do that. But years ago, I thought this presenter instructor teaching us this was insane. Like, I don't have time to quiet my mind. And even when I do, and I'm trying to be intentional and trying to be open-minded about this is going to better me, I couldn't shut my mind off. I couldn't, like, in my mind, I couldn't do it. I was always thinking about things. So if you are at that point, I'm here to tell you that practice, you can do it. You can, to the point where it's so peaceful when you do. And your soul just, you need to do this. It's it's invigorating.
Mhm. It's really good if you're grounding. It's
Yes.
easier if you're grounding when you do it. So,
And that's when I tend to do it. I literally will practice breathing. I know that sounds so silly, but I practice breathing, and I like to sit by a tree, even if it's cold out. I bundle up and just go sit next to a tree. Sometimes I listen to frequency music, but just relax and sit in the sun, um, stare at the sun. There's so many things that, we are not taught that is truly medicine for us.
mhm. Yeah. I remember when the whole tree hugger thing was going around. Don't be a tree hugger. And I'm
Right,
like, now it's like, well, obviously they said that because trees are so helpful
right.
for enlightenment.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anti campaign or campaign to stop you from.
Yeah. Everything is.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's changing now. Another thing that came out is how much faster you learn if you're having fun.
Yes.
So if you're playing, you learn, I don't know, like you learn it in 10 or 20 repetitions, where is if you're in school, it takes 400 repetitions
Yeah.
to learn something.
Yeah. We have a kindergartner. But so I think about that because they play to learn, and then, but actually in kindergarten, they kind of start doing a little bit more structured learning. But
Mhm.
there was a guy, I can't remember his name, but he was very successful on Jeopardy. Super smart guy, right? And it wasn't like the obvious like Ken or I can't think of their names either. But anyways, they asked him, how did you retain all of this knowledge? And he said it was by learning or by reading children's books. So his whole life he read children's books because he was looking at the pictures while he was reading, and then he could remember things.
Mhm.
And how many of us read picture books?
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't want them in there because people learn in different ways. Like some people, it's all tonal, some people, it's visual. But if you can do multiple things at once,
Right.
more people are going to learn from it.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Like algebra, I just hated, even though we had pictures, like I could never figure out. Like it was my only class that I had a C in, and I was like, okay, I'm done. Algebra 2 is the last one I'm gonna take. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
that's okay.
mhm. Yeah, it's really interesting how it all unfolds, and just kind of really loving yourself through this process is what I would say is the most important thing if you're just in the process of awakening.
Completely agree. We talked, Wyatt, she brought up a spectrum of the frequencies, and we talked about how if you're in that lower frequency, how to raise your vibrations. And it does not mean to suppress or ignore how you're feeling. In fact, that would be a lot worse. Don't hold it in. Recognize how you're feeling, what it is, what it means to you, and then let it go. Um,
Yep.
and when you let it go and be back up to joyful, loving, peaceful, and I think it'll make a big difference. But there's so many things on the spectrum for anybody that's looking to figure out, or I'll say like uh brighten the light within you, because we are all light. um I talked about hydrating and eating well, sleeping well, all those very fundamental basics. But then after you've kind of achieved that, then level it up with um, uh, meditation, definitely, grounding more frequently or often, but praying and talking to God or your higher self or source, whatever you believe that is. Um, you can you can train the voice that you hear, or the gut, the feel that you have when you are constantly talking to that person, or that spirit, because you can practice with yes no questions to get you to kind of get a feel for what is right, what is wrong. And that's something that I started years ago. And when you hear it, you listen. Like that's the rule. It is your guide telling you something. So you can ask them a question, and when they tell you yes or no, and it's not what you wanted, like, you know, can I have another piece of cake or whatever it is? And you know, you're like, okay, I'm not gonna do it. But and that's, I mean, on the lighter side of things, but practice with easy questions like, should I wear a coat today? Should I turn right up here when I'm driving to work? Should I, you know, just little things. And you'll start to hear the voice, and then it can be more predominant.
Yep.
And that is your guide. That is your North Star taking you where you need to be.
Yep. It's a beautiful thing.
It
And
really is.
there's so many beings that are in higher densities and in higher dimensions. And start looking at your movies and things that are showing you that, and pay attention to all those symbols in there. But we're going into a time when we're free and sovereign to be ourselves. And that's what ascension is realizing who you actually are. So it's going to be a wild ride a little bit, but it's also going to be more fun as we go. Because we've definitely come through probably the worst part of it already.
Within looking inside yourself, it's somewhat like losing weight. You don't see it happen, but after like 6 months, that's when you see, like, you looking back is like, wow. I mean, the way I was 6 months ago till now is, man, I've actually got somewhere, but you can't. Don't look for like results immediately.
Yeah, right.
Instantaneous.
It's like when I eat a salad, I'm like, my bikini ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's how we think a lot of the time too.
Right, yeah.
And we've wanted instant gratification quite a bit during this process. They're like, you know, and you'll clue into that if you haven't yet. Like if you're just in the process of awakening and you're like, well, it should just all be done now. And I want the Jetsons, you know, type of world to be here right this minute. And when I
still do
wake up
that, though.
tomorrow, it'll be here.
But that is a consistent message.
I know.
You got to put in the work. It is
coming.
work.
Yeah.
It's not anything that anybody else can do for you. You have to do it for yourself.
Yep. And things are shifting and changing, and that's because we're allowing it to. But the things that are happening could be mind-blowing, but they're also going to be really good for people as we keep going through this. So remembering that, and remembering that you're safe and you're okay, that's important.
Absolutely. You know, you mentioned in the pay attention to movies and things that you see. Synchronicities is another area that I've kind of opened my eyes to. And so I have a number that I see daily, and every time I see it, I laugh because it's becoming a joke. But pay attention to repeating numbers. 1111 is very common, right? It's an angel number. But if you see numbers repeating, it could be like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 2, 2, 2, whatever. If you see kind of these numbers pop up into your life, that to me is our guides telling us, you know, hey, you're in the right direction. I look at it as like a tap, like, see, keep going, you're doing great. And it's like my little cheerleader over my shoulder saying, like, you're on the right track here. And I don't know, do you have any experiences with synchronicities? And
oh yeah, tons. Mandela effects probably stick out to me more.
yeah,
I see lots of repeating numbers every day, but the Mandela effects are quite funny. Like Richard Simmons has passed away multiple times. The guy who did The Price is Right
Bob Barker.
passed away.
yeah,
Multiple times. Song lyrics have changed. The monocle on the Monopoly game has come and gone.
right.
Names of stores have changed,
The
you know,
spelling
it's
of the
just,
Berenstain Bears.
yeah, it's just on and on and on. And the I'll Be Home for Christmas song has recently changed to You Can Count on Me
Right. Yeah,
to
I
You
saw that.
Can Plan on Me.
Right.
So, you know, this is timeline shifts. This is part of the awakening process. Mhm.
And if you're having a bad day, don't think that all of a sudden you've taken a left turn to a bad timeline. I've had that scenario go through my head.
Yeah.
One day I see just a ton of Biden Harris signs. This is back in early mid-October. Like, oh God, I'd come home that Sunday. I was like, God, I think I'd switched the bad timeline.
That's funny. My husband did that too. And I'm like, there's a lot of empty land. Do you think that everybody gave permission? And then he was like, oh, and then that just disappeared.
Nice.
So it's a very interesting moment, but you don't want to, don't count on the outside to tell you how you are. Count on the inside. Yeah. We've definitely had some interesting moments as we go through this.
Well, I think part of the problem in Iowa, at least, it's we've had it pretty good, really, and that's why a lot of people aren't waking up. So,
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
and unfortunately, there may be some, well, I call them weird. Things might get a little weird, or Honey says sticky, but things might have to reach that demographic, but pay no mind to it.
Yeah. Yeah, things have to come to the surface, but it doesn't mean it's a permanent thing.
Mhm.
And if you haven't noticed, like a lot of the systems are collapsing. So Hollywood and the government in a lot of ways, and a lot of things will collapse and be rebuilt in different ways that are more beneficial to humanity.
Looking forward to it.
Hmm. It's pretty funny. It's really going on right now. So,
You know, it's funny too. Wyatt and I were talking about, this November as opposed to last November and even 2 years ago, how we how we've grown, but also just the difference because 2 years ago we're like, is it happening? Are we getting there? Are they like, is this the change and the shift that we've been waiting for? I think things are happening. And we're like, no, darn it, nothing's, it's like one little thing would happen and then nothing would happen for 6 months.
mhm,
And it truly is, things are definitely happening and speeding up now. We can
yeah.
feel it, we can all see it. Um, there is definitely a big shift going on.
Mhm. Yeah, and humanity has worked in loops for a long time. So you just loop around and then you do the same thing and then you loop around, and that loop is now broken.
Oh, the Groundhog Day loop, yeah.
Yeah. So we are moving up now. And we have been for a long time, but the loop was pretty tight. So we've had to do a lot of healing and a lot of letting go of, it has to be this way if it's going to work. So it's been beautiful, actually. I'm really excited. If you think about the last 4 years, a massive amount of things have happened.
Yes, completely agree. I feel like the last month, so many things have happened. It could like
Yeah.
more than last year almost, but
Mhm.
it's happening. What would you advise people who are interacting with the 3D or even the 4D, the chaos? How would you advise them to interact at this time?
If you're awake, then I would say remember that it's a passing thing. If you're interacting with somebody that you think is waking up, start introducing them to a show like this or something that's, engage it in yourself too. Sometimes they need something that's a little more rude, that's a little ruder awakening.
Mhm.
But if they just need to know what's going on and what the feeling is, then, you could share something like this or some other like summary of awakening, but just remembering that it's vibration and it's speeding up and getting brighter. And that's why we're ascending. It's really simple, actually. Like we're just going up the ladder.
It feels like we're sleeping less. Not drastically, but I'm getting up at 5 in the morning and going to bed at 10.
Yeah.
Mm.
It used to be if I stayed up that late, I'd have to sleep until at least 6. So I don't know. But that's one thing I've noticed anyway, as far as ascending.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I go through stages of that. Right now, I'm sleeping so hard for so long. And I'm like, oh, it's time to get up. I don't want to do that. But once you start to see the other side, because here's another part of awakening, you're doing stuff while you're asleep. Your consciousness is still busy. So once you start seeing what's happening, then you realize, oh, I'm working a lot. I'm working all the time.
Yeah. Yes. Pay attention to your dreams. I ask my kids almost every day, did you have any good dreams last night? And they usually make something up, and I know they're making it up because they say the same thing constantly. But I ask other people, or if somebody says, I had a strange dream, well, what was it? Tell me about it. Because if we talk about it, then you're more apt to remember it. And for people who say, I can never remember my dreams, then tell yourself you want to remember your dreams. Go to bed and say, I want to remember my dream tonight. And you'd be amazed at what you can do if you ask for help there. And if you remember one little sliver, what feels like one scene, okay, that's great. That's a door opening. And write it down. Keep a dream journal. I keep a dream journal, and it's amazing how sometimes I get lazy and I'm like, I gotta get ready, and I'm not gonna write in it. When I consistently write in my dream journal, I go from having what I would call just normal dreams to vivid astral travel dreams where I am doing things that are literally outside of this world, amazing. And when I get to that point, I can feel myself getting on the edge of my seat right now. When I get to that point, I can't wait to go to sleep.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can't wait to go to bed tonight. What am I going to go get to do?
Mm-hmm.
And that's so fun.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a window into what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, I hope this helped. This was really good. I'm glad you brought this up. Because a lot of people are in the process of just starting to awaken. So I think this is a good show for them if you need. And it's easier if you just share something with people than trying to tell them yourself. So a lot of times the relationship colors whether they're going to listen to you or not. So, yeah. But this was beautiful. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good. And so much fun. So we'll do this again and figure out when. But I hope you guys all have a beautiful day. And thank you, Kelly and Wyatt, for coming and talking to us. Okay.
Words. Thank you.
Yep, safe travels. I don't know if you're going anywhere Thursday, but
Yes, have safe travels for sure. And for the next month, it could be very interesting. So just kind of keep that in mind and enjoy yourself versus.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, depending on what happens, and if you're at some sort of family function or work function, well, yeah, dealing with normies. But I'm just saying, in case there is some sort of geopolitical movement, to be a voice of level-headedness or voice of reason.
Yeah.
Calm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you guys. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.